Again, thank you for joining us today for 10 creative activities to support student engagement using Credo. Through our current Credo in Action webinar series, we've been showcasing various ways that our customers have creatively engaged students. Everything from within instruction, at the reference desk, and through special projects, librarians are finding that Credo is a flexible instructional tool for not just reference, but information literacy as well. Today's webinar is sure to give you some ideas of even more ways to engage your students within their research efforts. I would now like you to introduce you to our speakers from California State University, Fresno, first-year student success librarian, and his colleague, instructional technology librarian, Vang. Ray, Vang, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you all for joining. We're really excited to talk about this webinar and give you a bunch of ideas to get started. I know for all of us, we're starting our school, and this is a great time to utilize these activities for your instructional outreach or student engagement. So as mentioned by Ian, I'm the first-year student success librarian at Fresno State. I support first-year students, incoming international students, transfer students, and so forth.
And I'm the instructional technology librarian. I basically do a lot with tutorials and with our faculty liaisons and with the liaisons that we have with our different departments.
So today we'll be talking about some of these activities that you can utilize Credo to support a multidisciplinary curriculum. So they will range from STEM to visual literacy to different kinds of techniques that you can apply in your instruction, outreach, and student engagement. I'm really excited to share these because we're experimenting with them, and we find that Credo has all these hidden features that people might not be aware of that you can utilize for these purposes. And now what we're going to do is, since you've heard from us, we want to hear from you, and we would like to know where you are all from. Where in the world are you? So please feel free to type in the chat box, I believe we're doing, and we'll be able to see where you're from.
Indiana, Kansas. Yeah, there you go. Wisconsin.
Looks like we're from almost all over the world. Iran. Really good to have all of you with us today.
And China, wow, you're actually in a different
time zone.
Time zone completely. I was like looking at what time it is over there. Very cool. Thank you all for sharing where you're located, and it's really nice to see that the interest for Credo in a global context is really exciting. So we're going to be sharing 10 different techniques. We're going to go through this really quickly in terms of what we've been doing, and hopefully you'll be able to pick it up. And if you have questions, feel free to ask us during the presentation or at the end, and we'll follow up. So we're going to go with number 10. So for those who are interested in working closely with different departments, you might want to think about using Credo to engage actively with the career centers in your university. So Credo is actually a great reference to look at different kinds of career paths, different kinds out there. They do have a section on jobs and leadership development, and this is a resource that I see it's growing, and I've been sharing it with our career development center folks, and they've been using it as well to talk to students as well and mention that they have this resource from the library. And obviously this is an area that I work closely with, partnering with our career development center to ensure that our students learn that they can do career research using our resources and really improve their own research skills in terms of finding out the appropriate research tools that are out there. So I want to just throw that out there. That's something you want to consider. Job resources are really key to helping students developing successfully.
We now are going to our first poll, and the question that we want to ask on this poll is, how many of you have done a Wikipedia-a-thon in your libraries? Wikipedia editathons.
Wow.
Oh, good.
So,
About 95% of you haven't done one. So that's great, because that leads us right to number 9 that we're going to be talking about. And we use Credo. As soon as we get our thing up here. We use Credo in a Wikipedia Editathon that we had during Women's Her History Month. And we host this event during this time because we wanted to be able to focus on a theme or a topic. And a Wikipedia Editathon is a great way to teach students about, people use Wikipedia all the time, but it's a great way to teach students that you can contribute, that you can make a difference. And using these resources in Credo, whether it's a print or whether it is online, students can use the resources to edit and to add to the different entries in Wikipedia. For us, with Credo, it's really nice that it's online because we find that a lot of students like the cut and paste, so they can go ahead and bring up a reference or an edit or a entry in Credo and copy that and then paste it right into Wikipedia without typing it in or trying to look up at the different pages and find where certain things are. So with Credo, it's easier to cut and paste, and especially the references and the citings that are really nice.
And it's something you want to think about doing in your libraries to encourage students and faculty to look at different Wikipedia entries and how to make them more accessible, fair, and exciting using reference materials like Credo to support that. So number 8, this is something I have done before, and I'm really excited to share that you can use Credo in a gamification approach. So in this case, this was back at where I used to work at New York University, Shanghai, where we set up students working in teams where they had to do a murder mystery research game. And Credo was one of the default databases that they had to use to look up different clues, find different information, and figure out the whodunit part. And it's a great way to incorporate this kind of reference material into a scavenger hunt or a kind of a gamification approach where you're teaching them reference and instruction, and also they're having fun at the same time. So it's something you can utilize with other resources, but for this example, it worked out really well. And so we need to ensure that this is a great opportunity for all to utilize. Okay, so we are hitting number 7, and I will let Vang talk about this one. This is about an interesting topic.
Some visual literacy analysis and research. Basically, I use a lot of the, I know that a lot of people go to Google or go to ArtStore for a lot of the images, but for me, I find that Credo is a great one-stop shop because you can find information in Credo, and then you have images that goes with the information. For a lot of students, that's a time saver, and a lot of students nowadays do presentations. So instead of just turning in a paper, they're doing a presentation. They can take the image, they can put it right on the screen and then talk about that image. And you as an instructor can take an image from Credo and then do an analysis of it and teach the students about the different types of image that is through history. For instance, the very first example here I had down the political cartoon. You can kind of go through the time of the age and see how the different cartoon has changed. So this is a great way to introduce students to teaching or to learning and then looking at the different images and go from there.
That's great. And for this example, number 6, we want to explain that this is something you can do with your STEM classes or with your social science classes. Credo has a lot of interesting graphs, maps, data that you can share, that you can have students work together and analyze. This is something I will be doing in some of my first year classes where they get to see and find different kinds of data sets or in a way that is in the encyclopedias and then start interpreting them. Because I think for first year students, particularly those students I support, they have challenges in identifying and assessing the graphics that might be presented, especially if it's STEM related. So this is a great opportunity for students to use this database to look up data, develop data literacy skills, and understand that they can use this Credo reference tool as a place to start looking for different kinds of graphics, maps, and data sets as well. Something that they can just use at a basic level. So we are hitting our second poll, and I wanted to ask everyone here, has anyone used mind map technique before? So it's a yes or no, and we appreciate it if you can fill this out.
Great. So a lot of you, 65% of you have used mind maps before, so that's good. I use mind map all the time, so that goes to our number 5. And this talks about mind map in Credo. Mind map helps with seeing the big picture. Sometimes students are so focused on a topic or a word that they don't want to branch out, or they don't see any other relating topics to their topic. So when you let them see a certain topic and they see all the different visually words that combines or talks about that same topic, it helps them to relax a little bit, because sometimes they come in and like, this is my topic, this is what I'm focusing on either, and they're saying it has to be a paper or an article that's very specific. It has to have this word in it. And you're like, let's see if we can branch out. And I'm like, no, we don't want to, we just want this word. And for them to be able to see this example and say, look, if you're looking at body image, there's eating disorder, there's body shape, there's anorexia. So they're like, oh, so all of that is about body image. And then you get them to open up and be a little bit more, I want to say a little bit more exploring of different words and different keywords in different places besides just that topic.
And Vang has a really great example using this in some of her classes. I wanted to call all of you to this attention that you may also want to think about the current situations that's been going on, particularly what happened in Charlottesville. And I think this is a good example you can use. Credo has this really exciting and interesting map that features white supremacy, racism, and this is an opportunity for librarians, especially doing instruction, to find ways to talk about this topic and deconstruct the notion of white supremacy and have students really look into it, delve into it more deeply. And this was actually something we just added after the incident, because we realized this is actually pretty relevant and it connects to exactly the incidents and the issues that we are facing right now, the challenging times we have. And to have these discussions through the library instruction really helps us to foster that we are critical thinkers and we are analyzing these topics very carefully, but also in dialogue with students and faculty for research. And this is something that I think I will be doing next week, or actually this week. I have a lot of first-year communication classes, and I'll be using this example so that students can see if they were interested in doing research on racism, looking at Ku Klux Klan or white supremacy, they can use this to map out exactly the areas that they need to focus on and then link back to the bigger picture, which is the key themes that we have seen here. So
the other thing too that I notice is that a lot of students, when they do presentation, they would bring in a PowerPoint presentation and they just talk, or sometimes they read everything on the PowerPoint presentation. I always tell the students to bring in a mind map. And then when they put that up, they can talk about their topic. But while that time, other students can read all the different relating issues or topics relating to their topic. And the students find that really helpful, so they don't have to read off their PowerPoint. They actually have something that they can talk, and other students can read other related issues, and maybe they have an interest that they might look up other topics.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for sharing that, Vang. So we are hitting number 4, a little bit after halfway. And this is an interesting area. This is something you may want to think about. This is, again, for those who do instruction or a way to engage with students. You might want to do a comparison of different databases. This is something you can do in a spreadsheet, have students access the Google spreadsheet, something that's open source, or a paper handout. Have they do a comparison between these three databases or any other ones, and then see exactly what are they getting, what kind of information, what kind of resources that they are searching for, and how these databases can help them. Obviously, these three are very different. You got the Credo, which is really great for primary research in terms of reference, and then you got ProQuest, which is really good for primary source and so forth, and EBSCO for secondary scholarly articles. But all of them, they really help give a big picture of the types of research that's been going on, and having students do a database search comparison can really effectively help them understand that you can't just utilize one source. You have to really think about the different kinds of sources and research tools available for their assignments.
It's all about giving students a toolkit that they can pull from instead of just going to one database. There are many other databases out there, and this is a great way for them to look at all the different databases, and in the same time teaching them critical thinking about looking at the different sources. Where is this coming from? How does one compare to the other? For number 3, what I use number 3 for is, for Credo, for me, is exploring different perspectives, and this is a good way to enhance and expand other people's culture and religion. A lot of times for my women's studies class, we do this a lot, is that they want to look at a certain topic and they want to get a field of how different fields is writing that topic. So there's a lot of encyclopedias, a lot of good references in Credo, that when the students does a topic search, it comes with all the different dictionaries and encyclopedias, and they can read on that and then find out, wow, this dictionary has a slight different take on it, this one's different. So it gives students a different way of how to explore that, you know, not everything is the same. People have different perspective. There are other people with different ideas, and even though they're encyclopedias, they can come from different perspectives in the different fields, depending on what they're writing, and the audience can be different too. So that's what, for me, is having that perspective and having the students look at the different dictionaries and say, you know, for this topic, what is it really saying in this dictionary or in this encyclopedia compared to other people's? So I use Credo a lot for exploring different perspectives and bringing that diversity in.
I think that's really important, to look at different lenses and have students explore the different kinds of topics through different perspectives, as Vang was saying, to really focus on this diversity aspect where the students can do research and understanding different contexts. But it's really important for this whole assignment to have students challenge their own implicit bias or some sort of a bias confirmation, because it's something that I think a lot of people may not realize, that they are just affirming or really aligned to whatever they believe in, but without seeing different perspectives. And having these resources available can really, attaching to an assignment, can have students read different voices, especially those that have been marginalized, and finding ways to empower their voices through critical thinking and through research and writing, and having faculty really incorporating it, working closely and collaboratively with librarians. That's something that I think could work really well.
And it's great that they're all here in one place. So you don't have to go searching in different databases or getting print and then online at the same time. The students can look at this in one place, one sitting, and read it all at once. So it's a one-stop shop. For our third poll, we're going to ask you if, do you create LibGuides for your classes? Because I know LibGuides is very popular in many, many libraries across the country and even in the world.
We're probably expecting 100%, but who knows, right?
Yay, 81%. That's great. So 81% of you do create LibGuides for your classes.
And if, in case you didn't know, there's something that is really interesting with what Credo provides. They, number 2, we're going to talk about this. They do provide LibGuides for all kinds of different topics. You have your women's studies to psychology to Asian studies, and then there's obviously here you see a communication LibGuide that Credo created. And what's great is that you can adapt a lot of these into your own LibGuides. Obviously, a lot of people who are doing it may want to consider it. But you may also want to think about multidisciplinary areas. Like I have here LibGuides for the first year research. You may want to pull stuff from communication to writing to different kinds of social sciences that maybe your first year students are taking, and really put it together where it's actually accessible for them to find different tools and resources through these LibGuides that Credo has generously provided that you can use. So in case you didn't know, for those 19%, if you have access to LibGuides, you may want to take a look at what Credo has created and utilize some of them for your own searches and resources.
You know, why create the wheel? It's there. Use it and then improve upon it.
And this is really interesting. We are actually heading to number 1, the last one, but we want to have more time for people to ask questions, to really discuss some of the techniques and activities we shared, and possibly share some of their own experiences. But number 1 is interesting because I was browsing around and I found this really interesting LibGuide, and it's actually on culinary arts and research. And you're probably thinking, that's great for those who are in culinary school, food sciences, nutrition, food studies, etc. But from someone like me, I actually worked at a public library when I started in my career. We've done food programming and so forth. It's something you might want to consider doing, right? Integrating that programming with this reference, with what Credo has provided in some of its tools, like some of these encyclopedias, into a programming that supports maybe different kinds of food cultures that you can host in your library in partnership with international students or in partnership with food sciences department. And what's great is that you're really having students really learn how to cook some of that stuff and then share it. And everyone can learn different kinds of recipes or different kinds of food traditions. And we've done this a lot. Obviously, you all probably know at public libraries, very big on food programming. But this kind of element can really create a new kind of engagement with students in different departments. And you can actually have fun at the same time too. So it's something that we haven't done yet at Fresno State, but we will be doing shortly. I'll be exploring different collaborators and hopefully bringing this successfully together in the coming year. So we are sort of wrapping up a little early because in terms of giving you opportunities to ask questions, to share some of your own experiences, and if you have to leave, you feel free to email us if you have questions, but we're gonna keep it open.
Yeah, and we really want to hear what you've done in terms of using Credo at your institution, or what you've done in terms of reference or instruction using Credo. And like I said, you know, we learn from each other. So just because we're doing all these things, we're not expert. We're always looking forward to hearing from what you've done at your institution as well.
And we want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the short answer is, yeah, you guys are experts, but we do want to hear some other folks. And so real quickly, some folks asked questions about the LibGuides. I put it into the general chat as well as specific answers. And you'll be able to see where to get LibGuides. Our LibGuides can drop into LMSs. So now let's get into some real questions. Somebody asked, little hard to read, so bear with me 1 second. Somebody asked, can we see some lesson plans or templates from some of these top 10 ideas? So I guess like a gamification, the gamification top 10 that you spoke of. Where did you and how did you do that? Can you share any background on that, Ray?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Sorry, I'm unable to see the chat, so I'm not sure who asked, but I am acknowledging that question. And I actually wrote this a couple of articles here and there, but what I will say in a tidbit is that it's something where you create different kinds of clues throughout the library in terms of supporting International Games Day at the library, which is held on November every year. And so when the students sign up to participate in this murder mystery game, they are given these clues where they have to use them to search in the database. And it's basically the clues lead up to the victim of the person who they have to find. So they're doing a biographical investigation, they're utilizing references, and then they're developing keywords for searching. So this is sort of like, okay, we're gonna just put a learning opportunity within something that's supposed to be fun, and they work in teams. And when they work in teams, they have to decide what kind of keywords that they get from these messages. And then they have to go to different parts of the library to get these clues. And then the clues will tell you exactly sort of where to go. And then they'll be able to find a piece of note. And then in the note, it'll leave a couple of keywords that they can search in the catalog. Once they gather all the notes, there's about 3 of them for each team, they will search in the computer, and they're designated in specific databases. So a couple of groups might have Credo, and one group might have EBSCO or some other reference database. And then they run the searches, and then if they can find out, based on all the clues, who the victim is, then they have to run to the person, the coordinator, me, and tell me who the person was. And from there, if they get it right, then they win the game. So it's a speed racing game. And it's something that you can do creatively. I don't think there is one kind of official lesson plan, but I will say that I've co-edited the first year experience cookbook, and it came out this past March by ACRL. There are lots of lesson plans out there on different kinds of scavenger hunts, gamification approaches, and I really highly encourage you to take a look at it. And if you have questions, I'd be happy to talk to you more in detail via email.
Well, that certainly answered a few of the questions that, interestingly, most of the questions that popped in were focused around that. So we nailed a bunch of those. One other one that popped up is, this is a quick commentary first. It was interesting that you guys identified doing a database comparison assignment as a top 10 approach. And, you know, from my former world in library journal, it just made me shake my head when I saw that. So much for discovery, huh? But that being said, the question is there a progression in the approach that you take to having them do the database assignments? Meaning, is there a database that is more ideal to start in terms of framing a broad topic and then utilizing the primary and secondary resources? Meaning, do you start with a Credo type of, hey, this is foundational information, etc.?
You know, that's a great question. For some of the workshops I've done, obviously this is a one-shot workshop, so you're limited to 50 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the session. And what I've done closely is that I have students go through each database in about 5 to 7 minutes each. So they each actually work in different kinds of groups, and then they focus on a selected database. So there is no progression, but that is interesting that you mentioned it, because you can add progression. I would say, obviously, Credo would be probably the first to start with. It's a really good exploratory database, so students can find more about their topics. So they'll know what kind of questions they want to ask, or what kind of content or gaps that they need to know, and then get into the more scholarly and secondary articles and primary sources. But with that being said, what it is that this activity is to help students understand that there are different kinds of tools available that they need to consider, and then share in their team activity, and just being used to searching different kinds of databases.
Yes,
Thanks.
I do use Credo a lot for that first search, in terms of people wanting to know more about their topic, but they don't really have an idea. So instead of like going to Wikipedia, I would say go to Credo, just type in your topic so that you can kind of see generally what it's talking about, who the players are, the timeline, the history. It gives you that background information, and then from there you can go ahead and do the more in-depth research.
And you can also, we mentioned it, like the graphs, the images, the multimedia content. You can also do that too for those formats, and have students search for different images in different databases. And I think that's a good way to compare and understand how these databases work, or may be more appropriate for their research assignments.
Thanks, guys. Another question for you both. Somebody wants to know, based on what your roles are, your different roles are at Fresno, which classes do you teach? What classes do you actually utilize Credo in instruction?
I use Credo a lot in my women's studies class, especially the introduction classes. For things that are a little bit more specific, I go to other databases. But in terms of the undergrad, in terms of the introduction classes, that's where I use Credo the most.
And for me, I teach all first year classes across the disciplines. So there's STEM, so that's like a foundational science class. There is communication, which is rhetoric or speech. A lot of people might have those classes, part of a general ed, first year writing. And if there's some foundational social science classes that are first year, I've taught in education or linguistics. But mostly it's been communication, which is really exciting because then they can really utilize some of the content, like the racism part I discussed, I think, to really get them thinking about these issues that are relevant to society today. And first year writing, when they have to think about different kinds of exploratory research that could be helpful to help them figure out the topics more in depth with other databases. But using Credo has been really great because it cuts through all the disciplines, regardless of the different years. They could be seniors, juniors, but for me, it's mostly first year students.
And even for my linguistic class at Fresno State here, a lot of the intro linguistic class tends to be international students or students with a second language. English is their second language. So for them to be able to use the mind map and putting in their topic, and they see all these other different topics, it helps them to break out of, I just have to focus on this and I just have to do this. So for me, that's where the mind map comes in, is to help students in terms of not being able to understand fully the question or the topic and to get that background information.
Nice. It's interesting. Clearly a deeper use case from at least what you guys are doing with your first and second year and international students. Another question popped up, may or may not be relevant because I'm not too sure, Ray and Vang, all of your functions, knowing librarians, you do so many different things, but do you, and if so, how do you use Credo to answer questions at the reference desk?
That's a great one. I've had it a couple of times actually, and it's usually the students who are in those classes who need to start with a research paper. And there's always a student working on global warming, climate change, and they're not sure why their professor prefers one over the other. And then when we use the mind map, then they're able to see some of the keywords out there, and then they're able to bring some of that keywords into Credo or into other databases and search through it and find more content about it. So this is something I've done in the past spring, but you can use that to help students visualize their research process. But in terms of finding exploratory research, like Vang mentioned, in the different perspectives, there's a lot of encyclopedias. It's a good way to get students started. I know that we have a lot of bound hard copies of encyclopedias. We usually take them there as well. But if students are sort of in a rush and they just need to figure out maybe just one terminology, like for instance, what is liberalism, which is something I've taught back in my previous institutions in a reference interaction where they were asking, I'm very confused with these political terminologies, and then you shoot it up and then they're able to find out what the definition is from different encyclopedias, giving them the whole picture holistically. So those are sort of my examples of using Credo in reference interviews.
Vang, anything that you wanted to add?
No, I have to say honestly that a lot of the Credo that I use are through instructions on, but in terms of reference, I know that there's a variety of resources, but it's not the first thing I reach for when I am at the reference desk.
Got it. Well, there are no more questions. So before everybody starts running and jumping off, please do note that Ray and Vang have provided their contact information for you right here. And knowing them both, I'm sure they'll be fast to respond. So just a reminder in closing out, there will be a recording of today's presentation shared with you in a follow-up email. There will also be a very short survey shared directly after the webinar and via email if you do not have time to complete it right after the webcast. So thank you very much for making the time today. We look forward to seeing you at upcoming fall webinars, which we'll be announcing soon. Good luck with the upcoming school year. Ray, Vang, thank you again so much for your innovative ideas, and thank you all for joining us. Have a great Labor Day, everybody.
Thanks, Ian. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.